So it's anyway certainly my pleasure to be here with this group of entrepreneurs, mostly Calcutta based, or at least have roots to Calcutta, and to be able to reflect on the store. We are all retailers, we know what a store is, we know how to run stores. We had to shut our stores during COVID, we reopened them again. And then of course we've often wondered what will happen to a store in the future. We've seen competition come into the retail business, not from other store people, but from people who are engineers, people who are technologists, people who have a vision about consumption but never ran a store before. So we saw competition coming in the early 2000s from players like Amazon and several others. In India, the first online player was Flipkart, before of course it got acquired by a store operator which is Walmart. We had Snapdeal, we had several other players, and all of them are retail businesses without stores, run by those who have no experience in retail, who have no experience in running stores, yet they were considered as competitors. So when we really think about our future, we have to reflect on what we are familiar with, which is the store. And how will the store actually adapt to the future requirements of the customer? So of course the first thing that you have to remember is, who is the future customer? So if you really think of the future customer as being, let's say, today's Gen Z, if you think of them as being, say, the millennial generation, then you have those who are between, say, 15 to about 35, 15 to about 40, who represent to us approximately about 45% of India's population, and who probably represent about 2/3 of India's buying potential. So if they are really the consumers of the future, and if they are the ones who are expected to come into our stores, then the first thing to remember is, how do we actually configure our stores for them? There are many other things that we will certainly need to reflect on, and I will use the rest of this session to be able to seek the inputs of my fellow panelists on what exactly we will need to think about when we think of reshaping the customer journey and the role of the store in the future. So may I start with the only lady on this panel, and Rochita, if you don't mind, since you've run a whole chain of stores, and if you think of the store, today it's a place where a customer walks in, looks, likes, buys, walks out. Purely transactional. But when you think of a store in the future, how would you imagine the store of the future in your business?
Hello. Because I am a traditionally small business, I don't see a massive change or a disruption in the store experience in the near future. I understand that customers want a experiential, immersive experience like you had asked before. But in my case, I think that's more of a luxury construct, and luxury brands and stores have the margins, the space, and they also have the clientele who require a sense of ambiance. That's not necessarily the market I am targeting to. My clients demand celerity. So I have to deliver that to them. And I know it doesn't seem like I'm doing something revolutionary. We are all here to serve our customers. So what am I doing so differently? So I'll just use some numbers to help illustrate my point. My flagship store is 36,000 square feet big, and on an average festive weekend, and it's always festival season at Sreeleathers. We don't have an off season. We expect 20 to 25,000 people in the stores. And we have more than 3,000 SKUs, out of which just the footwear inventory, the total footwear inventory, 70% is daily inventory. So I'm replenishing that in 24 hours, which I don't have the industry average with me, but ours is above and beyond the industry average. So having said that, because our daily numbers are so challenging, for us, priority is given to daily operations. We don't have the luxury, but obviously that's not to say that we would never change in the future. Of course, if in the future our customers require that change, then we would have to make that adjustment required. But for now, this is what has been working for us successfully for the past more than 30 years. Thank you. Thank you for your question.
So but if you were to think about, let's say, footwear buying, right, and if you think about it in a sense, construct, where customers come in, they look at designs which are there, figure out what their size is, get one which fits them, look at what they have actually put on to their feet. If you look at what exactly the friends circle which they come with and the opinions that they provide, and then they take that decision. Is there a way to be able to elevate it so that it becomes, let's say, more experiential than what you might do if you were to buy online?
So when it comes to experiential, we have not intentionally injected that. I'm not sure if you're familiar with my store layout or how my store operates, but for us, there is no time on the floor. When we are checking out a cashier during three months before Durga Puja sale, a cashier, if you're at an average billing 3 boxes, he has less than 15 seconds to bill you and check you out, because that's how busy it is. But that's not to say we have not had anything experiential. It's not intentionally done, but as you see, my business model is entirely built on the fact that we have to optimize every single resource available to us. So one of the most expensive resource in the physical store is the space. To optimize the space, when my father had first come to Calcutta to start this business, his selling area was approximately 100 square feet, which is unimaginable. I mean, everybody would agree to have a store that small, selling area that small. It's you're on a pathway to failure. But what he had decided was he was going to install overhead drop boxes so that he has a mezzanine floor to keep his inventory. So that almost doubles your space. And even though locals are more or less used to it because they frequent stores and they know how it is, when I'm in the store, I can tell who is a regular customer and who is a new customer, or who is an out-of-state tourist, because the out-of-state tourists are like in shock to see all these flying shoe boxes just swooshing over their head and by their ear. So that fascinates them. So even though we didn't intend to create that experience, or like, because of this, because it was so novel, a lot of social media memes have been generated. There has been a lot of conversation about this. There are comedians who make sketches about this. And two of the greatest takeaways for me is, sometimes you may not intend to do something, but if you have a unique solution to your existing problem, people will generate that conversation for you. And another takeaway is that when people generate that conversation for you, there is nothing more impactful than that. Like, word of mouth, I believe, is the strongest brand campaign. No celebrity brand ambassador can do that for you. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. But I'm just going to another celebrity brand ambassador retailer whose father started with a 300 square feet store in Howrah many years back, and today is a wonderful success, as all of you all know, Manyavar and Mohe. Using celebrity brand ambassadors. So what I'd like to do is to get Vedant to tell us about the journey of the way they have seen stores. You know, it's easy to be able to keep a transactional point, but how would you dress up somebody in store? And I think they've done a great job at that.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I think I would like to begin that the reason why we had to enter the EBO business in the first place. So when my dad started the business in 1999, he noticed that retail back in those days, people didn't really work on data. So as the lady was rightly mentioning that it's all about maximizing space and productivity. So the basic thing he solved with our first store, and the reason we had our first store, was to solve for the issue that we only kept products that we thought was relevant for that set of consumers. By doing that, we were able to provide a great retail experience. So anyone walking in, we used all sorts of data intelligence to understand what kind of products sell in a particular pin code, and then only replenish items at that sort of a quality and that sort of look and feel. Then what was done is that we were able to maximize the experience within the store by having only relevant products in there. And I think experience, while everyone is trying to build crazier experiences in the store, we have to start with the basics. Things which online has disrupted for us retailers is exchange and return are now at a click of a button. But even today, if I have to go for an exchange to a store, I'm already walking in there with a very negative mindset that this guy is going to make me wait and he's going to deal me after everyone. So the basic things which we have to solve for our exchange and return, in my opinion, because anyone might or might not remember a positive experience, but they will definitely remember a bad experience. So we've tried to create a turnaround time for exchange and return consumers in our store. And the idea is that if we're able to keep these customers with us who've come in for exchange and return, they will stay with us for a lot longer, while working on experiences for the future. So just to give you some perspective, what we've been trying to work on, in our larger stores, in our South X store, which is about 20,000 square feet, 4,000 square feet of space is simply for care and VIP concierge. And we use that space to simply elevate alteration pickups, second trials, and anyone who comes to treasure their product with us. And we've also started to introduce dry cleaning facilities for people who've gotten married, used our sherwani, and then they want to get it dry cleaned after wearing it so they can treasure it later on. So I think the way I look at experiences from a retail point of view is, first, let's make sure we're not doing anything that is less than e-commerce. And then let's focus on doing better than e-commerce.
Lovely. So what you're saying is that the best of both worlds and exceed the same. Let me switch to Sunil. I think Sunil came from, Sunil is with Lenskart. And as you know, Lenskart, as was mentioned earlier, is a digitally native brand which decided to extend itself into the physical world. And today have approximately, 1,200 stores in India? Yeah. So they've really gone, quite extensive in the physical space. But that transition was not easy. The transition, of course, I think was stuck between what do we do in a physical store, which is different from what other optical retailers will do. Plus, the second part of it is that since we are digitally native business, how do we make sure that we extend what we are online into our stores? So maybe that might be a good way for you to kind of segue into this conversation, Sunil.
Thank you very much, Bijou and Rai. So basically, I'll just start by saying this, that it has been very challenging for Lenskart also, because it came in as an online company. And for 2 years, we operated purely on online. And then we moved into offline business. And like what Rochita was saying or Vedant was saying, we started with somewhere around 200 to 300 square feet store. And we saw that though yes, customer experience is extremely important, but we were not able to service all the customers who were walking into our store, because it is a category wherein it requires an eye checkup. It requires touch and feel of the product. How it looks on you, it is extremely important. So we could not serve. So obviously we will have to ensure this, that we have optimal space to serve our customers. So obviously our stores grew from 200 square feet to 500 square feet to 1,000 square feet. Even we have a 5,000 square feet store today. Like he was saying that there's a dry cleaning area. We also have an eye massage area. We have an hairstyle area in some of that. So that experience gets added. But what really changed for Lenskart was an omni-channel experience, right? And I would like to touch upon this because of the reason that The buying behavior, especially after pandemic, has changed, right? 40% of the retail brands have been changed and switched by the consumer. And out of that, 90% of the people have looked at alternative way of buying rather than going to the shop. Today, your store is going to tell you a story, but unfortunately, that store is not telling you a story from the front door. It is telling you a story from the offline or online experience what the person has got. Earlier, it was an advertisement. You see an advertisement, go to the store and buy. Today, it is not like that. Today, first you go to an online, you look at it, right? Then look at the brand experience, look at the reviews, then you reach a store at most of the times. Then if you don't find the same kind of experience in the store, the same kind of story in the store, there is a big disconnect. And how do you do it at multiple points in omni-channel was the biggest point which we wanted to address. And we started looking at ensuring that the same experience and consistency is seen in all these channels, and which can help us. And it comes with a lot of challenges. Training the people. Today, we are supposed to not sell the product. We are supposed to sell the brand in the store, right? If you sell the brand, the customer may go back to online and buy it, go back to our home try-on and buy it. But if you're selling a product, it is just an experience what you're, and mind, you're not just giving an experience and you're not telling a story. The story has to flow across all channels of, selling what you do, or challenge of touch which you have. And unless that is done, that omni-channel or basically the seamlessness of the consumer is lost. So there's a difference in what it is today compared to what it was about a year ago, or maybe about 5 years. And going ahead, it is going to be an era of augmented reality, visual search. Today we have a voice search. It will be a visual search, especially for companies like Manyavar. I think you want a dress with a mirror on top of it, right? With a closed neck. You can't write on a Google and see. But if you have a product, you just take a visual and load it. It will show you all the comparable products, what is there. So these visual searches are also going to be an, fashion tomorrow. It is going to augment your sale. And this is going to give you, and how do you close? Like what he was telling, that how do you reduce the time of, time taken by a consumer to select your product? Also comes from machine learning and augmented reality or, AI. So it will also reduce. So using technology to reduce the time of transaction and give a seamless experience in the store is extremely important as we move forward. And that is what Lenskart is striving for. We are not there. We are not even scratched the surface, which Bijou knows very well. We have not even scratched the surface, but we are doing that journey, and the journey is going to change as we move. Like Zen X, what he was talking about, right? The social media platforms have become so much. Today, there is 94% chances of conversion in a social media platform when someone is buying and when someone is seeing. And the returns are also less. Like FB, Insta, Quick Chats, WeChats, these are selling quite a lot. And the conversion is 90% once you click. So the various platforms what you have is also going to determine what you give it in a store. So that's what is from my side. I think there's a lot of journey which we have to also make, and I'm very sure that we are moving towards that. It will take some more time for us to reach that level of seamless experience.
Great. Thanks, Sunil. And I think on that note, I'd like to switch to both Mukesh and Rishi about retail spaces. So we've talked about stores. Mukesh, you're familiar mostly with both stores as well as with malls. And what I'm trying to imagine is that when you think of a mall, and if you think of that as being a part of the community where it is located, and an opportunity for the residents of that particular community to come to that particular location to entertain themselves, to eat, to shop, to socialize, and in a sense, it is a social platform. It is a physical social platform which is in character very similar to the digital social platform that Sunil talked about, where you kind of share your stories, where you talk about what's happening with you, where you interact with people physically as opposed to interacting digitally. So when you really think of elevating the experience in the malls and thinking of it from the way digital technologies have connected people and created communications amongst people, how would you see the mall as being not just a physical structure where retail outlets are located, but as a magnet for the community where it is located?
All right. So actually we as mall operators, we are basically aggregator. We don't own anything. Our experience in the mall starts from the time we find a place, we design the place, get to retailers and do a zoning, what categories you have, it starts from there. And you basically experience like your ingress, egress, your parking, your facilities, your washrooms, and what kind of brands you have in the mall. And it's very important to have your adjacencies right. We start from there. As far as technology is concerned, we possibly can't compete with Amazon or Flipkart because they've got millions of stores, millions of brands. We can only house 300, 400, 200, that's the brand. So that's not the competition at all. So what we have to look at is how do you provide that experience to customers? Now, I experience to customers say all these basic things I told you. Beside that, when you enter the mall, are you giving a good experience in terms of air conditioning, your training employees, your the way stores are located, the way you enter the store, exit the store, how much time it is taking. When you have a larger crowd, how do you handle the crowd there? We work with the retailers in terms of how do we, in the customer comes to the store, is he doing his purchase there or not? In case he is not, why is not doing the purchase? We want to work with the retailers, and that's what we do, work with the retailers. That how do you convert? How do you make that conversion higher? Is it that we have noticed sometimes that people come to the stores and they get frustrated with such a long queue for trials or such a long queue for billing. So people, they have the, just leave it and go. I said, how do you handle all this, tackle all this? So we give them this kind of feedback. As far as the customers are concerned, when they come to the store, they say, I don't have the size at all. How do you provide this? So we say, why did you have, of course, all these guys, they know what they're doing. He said, let them pick what they want. Even if they don't have it, doesn't matter. We'll provide a service to have this delivered to them. So I don't have the, let's say, 44 size. Doesn't matter. Please place your order. Maybe within a day or within 6 hours, it'll reach you because this store guy will find from some other place and deliver it to you. So we use the technology like this. We also have way of finding through technology. You know, even you can go to the mall, where do you find, how do you go to the stores? We have all this platform for people to make it a little more friendly and a little more tech friendly on this. Offers coming to from the stores. So when you're passing by, I get to know what the store is offering. You know, is he giving me an offer of 30% discount or some other offers? So we provide this kind of information to them so that even stores are able to sell their products to the customers.
So in a way, what you're saying is that what an e-commerce site can do, you can do in a physical mall.
In a limited way, yes.
In a limited way. And hopefully with the better use of technology over time, like the way when you get onto an Amazon site, they know where you left the last time. They pick up your trail from where you left. They understand what you bought in the past, so they actually showcase to you relevant products to what you bought. They've seen, you know, what your behavior on the site is. Where did you abandon a shopping cart? Where did you abandon a page? So they kind of deliver to you, you know, based on what has been your past behavior. So there are technologies which are today available which allow you to be able to replicate this in a physical environment and not just in a digital environment. So there is a possibility that all of what somebody like an Amazon does today is something that you can quite comfortably do in the future in a physical mall.
No, Bijou, I think I differ here because we are not a tech company. We're not Amazon. We can never compete with them. What is their strength? providing experience. That's a strength. I rather spend money on that providing that experience. If tech is going to play a role there, yes, we want to invest on that. But our strength, our forte is providing experience. And it has been proved time and again. I mean, if you look at the pandemic, what happened, there's hardly any physical store sales. The moment the stores open, we are growing by 30%. I think everybody can say that, yeah, we're growing with 30%. Online may have started. They may have gone from 2% to 10%. It does not mean they have taken from the physical stores. They're still growing. So people still want that experience. And here the mall plays a very, very important role. As you rightly said, it's not just a place for shopping. I think not more than, if you look at the industry average, not more than 22% conversion from the footfall what you get in the mall. Hardly 20%, 22%. So balanced people, they come to the mall just to meet, greet, spend time. So basically, they're not contributing towards your sales, but you need to have them there. It's very important. In fact, I remember when I used to look at the malls earlier, 15 years back, when I was not from the same business, I said, why are these guys sitting and doing in the food court? There's occupants where they were even having a tea. But when I joined the business, I realized, no, we need to have them as well because they bring more crowd. They may be sitting with a cup of coffee, but because there's somebody sitting there, the other person also comes in. So I always believe that what is your strength? Work on your strength. Because you can never compete with what Amazon can do or Flipkart can do. It's impossible to do that because that's a tech company. We are not a tech company. We are here to provide experience.
Shreyans, this question is to you. And you've built an admirable business in the value fashion space. And you've expanded rapidly. But your style of retail is slightly different from the regular style of retail,
Yes.
which you might see with, say, with Vedant's business, etc. So how do you see your store providing experience for your kind of customer?
Actually, when we are talking about the experience now, for our segment, we are dealing in value segment, which is masses of country, not classes. So as he rightly said, the basic should be right in that scenario. Our focus is more on store team member training that way, because I think the learning and development that the HR is conducting has helped us a lot post-pandemic in terms of creating a connect with the, I will say, customers that way. And apart from that, I think in our scenario now, we are not mall-based, we are on high street, because we think we need to go to customers rather than asking customers to come to us that way. And for that, the major focus that we do on the experience part is that I think customer is always right, that we tell our store members, you have to understand the customer's concerns and address them properly. And the third thing is that the customer comes with an expectation in terms of product experience and the price perspective, particularly in our segment. So that is the reason the main focus that we do on the store is the product. In terms of product, we try to play with the price perspective, product perspective, and that is the way we do. Thank you.
Great. So Rishi, when you look at the larger business at ANAROCK, and when you look at, let's say, the way retail is evolving, and you've been a veteran in this space for many, many years, how do you see the kind of places customers, I mean, your clients are looking for, and the kind of stores that your clients are building out?
Thank you, Bijou, for this interesting session. And just to add to what all our friends have put across, customer experience is not something which has come to the crux of retail now. Me as a consultant, when I started my journey in 2005, our whole pitch as the beginner was to go around the Dadar market as I started in Mumbai with our brochures and to those local retailers, explaining them that this is the time when you need to take the next leap forward. And these are the retail developments that are coming up across the city, across the state, and you have customers, but the experience that they get from your store, the experience that this locality gives them might be, sooner or later Today, they are happy to come there because it is their designated shopping area. But sooner or later, that might stop happening. So you need to think about your customer experience. You need to evolve so that your customer can get a better experience. So starting from there, this evolving of customer experience is kept on happening. Whether it has been inside the malls, whether it has been on high streets, somewhere we witnessed a lot of retailers who cannot experiment with their stores inside a mall. So they've come to us and said, Ki, boss, see, we are a store where we need to evolve with the speed of the customer. We cannot sit back and say ki the mall will churn in next 9 to 10 years. So we also have to wait for 9, 10 years to evolve from this store to take another leap forward. So I prefer a high street, where if I decide overnight I need to change the experience for my customer, I will do it. The latest in that, what we are experiencing now from then is we have MBOs which keep international brands, brands to the level of Ferragamo, brands to the level of Gucci. So what they've started doing is they're not selling brands to their customer. When you enter their store, this is the latest one. When you enter their store, you'll find a section of denim. You'll find a section of formal. But it will not be a Louis Philippe wall. It will not be a Van Heusen wall. It will not be a Turtle wall. It will not be, it will not be a brand-wise wall. So what happens is when the customer is wanting to experience and the customer is evolving. So today, if I, as a person personally, if I can buy a denim worth 10 grand, suppose. So when I go through that counter of denim and I see a diesel which is costing me, suppose, 9 grand or 10 grand, and next to that I see a lovely denim, no branding is there on the wall. Next to it is a lovely denim which is a CK, probably costing me 12 grand. I like it. So I don't have to go and see, your CK is not affordable for me. I am buying a jeans worth 10 grand there. 2000 hi to zyada hai. So those are the changes that people are seeing, and that is how even the retailers are pushing the customer to evolve in terms of giving them that experience. And then there is some personalized curation done at that level, which I completely understand when we talk about, when Rochita said that, we are a mass business, like Mr. Surana said, we are a mass business. We cannot go to that level and curate things for people. We have our customers, but you look at their ad, specifically I would talk about Rochita, when there is a festive season, they come up with, I think, 2 to 3 pages of ad, if I'm not wrong. And those advertisements are bang on. There is product, there is price. There is product, there is price. So what is that? That is an experience which they are giving to their customers sitting at home. And 3 pages of product with the price. So at least, 50% of the people going through will come to the store. So that's how, with the paper or with a picture. Everyone has a camera phone, they'll click a picture, they will come to the store. So that's how retailers at their level are enhancing the customer experience. And there is another aspect of Ferragamos and Gucci's and Armani's, how they are experimenting and enhancing the customer experience. So this journey has been since the beginning of organized retail. It will keep on evolving. We've been through this journey and we will witness much, much more going forward.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Rishi. Shitanshu, if I were to ask you about Turtle, and since Rishi just mentioned about how in the apparel category we are moving from brands to categories of products, and which has been the common thing in electronics and food and grocery and things like that, where things are all sold as categories and not as brands. However, what does happen, we know, in the apparel category is the fact that both in terms of design, fabric, differentiations are very challenging, because the moment you bring out something new, it doesn't take too long before somebody else replicates the same thing. So you've got to constantly stay ahead of what the others are doing. And part of the reason that we want to also constantly keep innovating and bringing out new collections is to be able to get customers to come back into stores to ask what's new. And that what's new, whether we advertise it or whether we showcase it in the stores, is the driver of sales. So when you think of, let's say, in the apparel category, and when you're thinking about how you could draw customers in and how to get them wowed about what exactly the product can offer or do to them, like the way sometimes Vedant does it in the stores. When when you're dressed like a king, you feel like a king. So in that way, how do you do that in the Turtle store?
So I think it's pretty simple that, we went back to the basics and we thought about, we all do seasons in apparel, in our category. Menswear is a bloodbath. But actually, if you look at menswear, what's the season except some winter products maybe? There's no major season in India. We've adopted the season concept from the Western world. So I think the way we stay fresh, to answer your question, is that we've come out of season. We don't have any season concept in our stores. What we bring in is drops, collections relevant to that particular month, festive, winter, whatever that is. And those are, of course, displayed in the front, on the windows, etc. And that creates, I guess, keeps the excitement going for the consumer. But as Vedant said, the availability, the basics, of having the size, the replenishment, the experience right. And I think in India, there's still a long journey to go forward in terms of men developing their own sense of style. Like you go to France, you go to London, there's a certain sense of fashion they follow. And India, of course, is evolving at a rapid pace, but I still feel that, we are in transition. So what's going to be really interesting is, if the brands take this position or leadership in terms of curating, in terms of educating, because ultimately brands are not a commodity business. You're not coming to buy a product. You're coming to buy the brand, and a brand has to have a point of view. And if the brand can connect with the consumer and kind of educate them on that point of view, I don't think that, gaining traction, gaining repeat customers is a challenge. Coming to a very small, interesting story on the consumer delight. So I was actually in the Apple store in Dubai a few months back, and it was a massive store, 10,000 square feet, and I entered the store and I wanted to buy just a small pair of headphones. But I was really overwhelmed because really huge crowd was in the store, like who's going to attend to me, who's going to do the billing, there'll be a huge queue and all that. So I attempted to pull out the staff, like, can you help me? Okay, so she asked what I wanted. I said, I want this, this, this. She actually spoke to someone on the walkie. That product arrived where I was standing near a gondola, in a minute. I said, now what about the billing? So she tapped her Apple Watch on the desk, a drawer popped out. That was the cash. She did my billing there and then. There was a carry bag inside it. Put the product in, gave me the bag, thank you, sir, goodbye. So I'm like, there are so many ways of innovating and, bringing that ease and delight to the consumer. I was amazed, at what level of detail retail and retailers can go to. And I think, fortunately, we travel abroad and there are so many places of inspiration there. And we have a long way to go, I feel.
Great.